Got a special guest in studio this morning. Brendan's on a bit of a detox at the moment. A lot of us always looking for ways to look after ourselves and make our life better. Jason Sean Bennett, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Jason is a health researcher and mentor. He's just released a book. It's called Eat Less, Live Long. So what's this book all about? Tell us about it.
Well, it's about three key things, I guess. One of them is my story, which we can go into if you like, and that's how I got well and I was very unwell. The second part is about the healthiest centenarians. So why is it that there are groups of people, 6 or 7 of them around the world, from Loma Linda in the States to Nagano in Japan to Abkhazia and Vilcabamba, these different areas, why is it that they live to 100 at rates 10 times higher than we do? They get 10 people there, we get 1. And the people we get there are crawling to 100, whereas these people are looking after themselves and running around looking after their great-grandkids. And they never get sick. They don't take any medication or drugs. So what is that about? How does that happen? So the book's a lot about that and busting the myths about how you age well. It's all about liver health and plant intake and fibre and getting enough sleep and rest, all those key things. So that's the second part of the book. And the third one's all about fasting.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background. And you were really sick. You're in hospital a lot. What happened?
Well, I was born at 7 months. My mum had toxemia, so they whipped me out. I was a little 2'9" baby, lucky to be alive. I ended up with 16 shots of Ventolin a day. I was on Intel prevention, steroid injections, in and out of hospital, breathing apparatus. I ended up with asthma, very bad asthma, hay fever, allergies. I got every bug, every flu, every cough, every cold. I ended up with weight problems and constipation and digestion issues and bad skin and acne and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I was really unwell for the first 20 years of my life. And what I did was I got to age 20, and after being told, look, this is genetic, you can't do anything about this, son, take the drugs, I decided to start looking at, well, what about diet, lifestyle and environment? Because this is in the 1980s, this is almost 30 years ago, and I thought, okay, well, at that point there was no internet, you couldn't Google anything you wanted, you actually used to go to the library and photocopy stuff, So I started investigating it, I started finding out about these centenarian cultures, and what they did, and I started looking at fasting and what does fasting mean, and what's that, how does not eating for a day going to help, and then I looked at vegetarians and fibre and plants, and over 4 or 5 years I cured everything. And now I haven't had an asthma attack, a hay fever attack, a cold, a bug, a flu, a virus, nothing for almost 30 years.
Wow.
I never get sick. All my weight issues gone, my skin issues gone, everything, and I've done it purely through changing my diet, my lifestyle, and my environment, and now that's what I teach.
Wow.
Now, I've got to say, I asked you this off air, have you ever had surgery? Have you ever had Botox? Because you look like, honestly, and not a word of a lie here, you're nearly 50.
Yeah.
You look younger than Brendan.
You do. You actually look younger than me.
And Brendan's in his
You guys
early
are great.
30s.
Can I come back?
No, seriously, you do. You look amazing. So tell us about this fasting. How does that work?
Yeah, well, fasting's one of those amazing things where we're actually genetically designed for fasting, because throughout history there was never enough food. So all of the cultures, and even our culture, every culture, if you go back long enough, there's regular periods without food. So we're actually designed to cope with it. And what we do is we store fat. So when we have enough food, we store it, and it's called body fat. It's actually stored fuel. So when you start fasting, every 1 pound of body fat you have is 3,500 calories of fuel. So if you're carrying 20 pounds of fat, you can fast right now for 40 days and your body will love it. So we're actually built for fasting. What we're not built for is overeating. And we've got this whole challenge now, the last 20 or 30 or 40 years, where we've got too much food. We eat the wrong kind of food, and it's all addictive, full of sugar and salt and fat and gluten and casein, these things that literally light our brain up like cocaine. So we're addicted to the wrong kind of food. We're eating too much of it, and it's everywhere. And we never give ourselves a break. So your liver is in charge of your skin health, your aging, and your liver is absolutely and utterly influenced by how much you eat.
Now, I've got a question for you. You might not like this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because I'm not a huge believer in fasting, and this is what your book's about. I just don't see the appeal of it at all. So how do you get
scared to go a day without food?
I'm not scared, I just don't like the idea of it. It's like food to me seems natural. It seems natural to have breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Yes, it is.
Okay, cut out the rubbish in between, but 3 stable meals a day to me seems natural. How do you convince someone like me that a fasting is a good idea?
Absolutely. Well, there's a few ways to answer that. Firstly, what's unnatural is the amount of food that we now eat. So most of the time we're eating way too much food, hence we have more body fat on the body. Right? So number one, we overeat. The polar opposite of that is fasting. Number two, fasting has been the most simple, effective way to get well throughout human history. For instance, if your dogs and cats get sick, how do you know they're sick? What's the first thing they do?
Throw up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they stop eating, right? And when you've got kids, what's the first thing they do? What the first thing they lose is they stop eating, right?
You can't eat when you're sick.
Exactly. Notice that simple truth. We understand that. We understand when I'm sick, I'm not going to eat. But what we don't understand is how do I prevent sickness by not eating? And it's exactly the same thing. So when you stop eating, you give your liver a chance to clean. And what happens with your liver, and this is where, in terms of your question, this is where it gets interesting, because your liver dictates how long you live, your heart disease risk, your cancer risk, your skin health, and your aging. So something that does that, and your fat burning. So your liver influences all of that. Now, if you give your liver a break, what it does is it starts to eat away and recycle your dead cells, your decaying cells, the old cells in the human body. It literally starts to eat and recycle the fat and all that waste, recycles the proteins and starts growing young cells. So if you want to grow younger, look healthier, lose weight, start to glow and increase your longevity and lower your risk of disease, you need to look after your liver. The most effective way to do that, alongside of those great things you're doing, like giving up the booze and things like that, because alcohol wrecks your liver faster than anything, no question.
Yeah.
But it's to give your liver a break every now and again. And it's doing it, like you say, intelligently. You don't want to go on a fad diet or anything. You want to do things that, you can do for a long period of time. And I've regularly fasted for over 25 years. So it's very easy to introduce and to do over time, slowly and intelligently is the trick.
And it's something I think that you shouldn't do if you're not educated on how to do it. So obviously
Agreed.
reading about it in your book and doing it properly is going to help. Otherwise you probably could cause some damage.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to be appropriate with it. Most human beings have got plenty of body fat, so they can live for days and days, but I don't recommend that. What I recommend is learning about it. You can read about it in the book, of course, and then taking slow steps into it. Once you're into it and you start to feel the benefits, I generally fast 1 day a week, but I do it intelligently, make some good veggie juice, look after myself. If it doesn't feel right, I won't do it. So, slowly introducing it in an intelligent way that you can sustain. Once you start to feel the benefits and you start to see it, I tell you, you're away.
There's the thing, though, that I know a few people at home are going to be thinking, and I'm thinking it as well.
Yeah.
There are so many different viewpoints.
Absolutely.
Like, there are people who say don't eat carbs. There are people who say eat carbs. There are people who say don't eat gluten. There are people who say eat gluten.
Yes.
There are people who say don't eat fruit because there's too much sugar in it. You were saying that off air before, but then there are people who say fruit's great. Why would you cut that out of your diet?
Yeah, well, look, here's the thing. Where I come from, what my passion is how do we all in New Zealand live a long, healthy life free of drugs and disease? So how do we all have a long life that we want to have? Because we all want a long life underneath it all, but we want to actually be feeling good all the way through. So how do we have a long, healthy life without drugs and disease? How you do that is you look at what the centenarians have done. So the Vilcabambans, Azkazians, Pakistani Hunza, Okinawans, Naganos, Loma Linda population, you look at those 6 or 7 groups of people around the world who have done it and who continue to do it right now, in present time. Not a fair diet, not science, nothing else, just the people that have done it. And when you look at those people, and I've studied these people, and it's fascinating, and that's what the book's all about, you find they all do the same kind of things. They all eat less. They all don't drink. They don't have any coffee. They don't eat a lot of meat. They're mostly plants, about 90% plus plant matter. They have routines and rhythms in their day. They're not stressed. They get enough sleep. They have lots of fibre in their diet. So when you look at what they do, there's these commonalities all over the world, and it doesn't matter where they come from. And of course, these people haven't got on the phone and rung each other and said, "Oh, how are you doing?" as a centenarian. They just have discovered what works. And they eat more fruit than anyone else in the world. They eat more vegetation than anyone in the world. And they don't eat the processed food. So when you start to look at what they do, and then you can back it up with the research and the science, it's all exactly the same story. So actually, there's no controversy at all when you look at it.
Jason, this one's come through from Claire. She wants to know your thoughts on sugar.
Yeah, look, I'm not a big fan of added sugar at all. The body will convert from fruits and vegetables. And firstly, my stance on fruit. Fruit is one of the best foods in the world, no question. Why do I say that? Simply that the world's healthiest, longest lived centenarians eat more fruit than we do. But here's the thing, they'll eat an apple or 2 rather than a fruit juice. They won't eat a cream donut afterwards, so they'll eat an apple, which is great. Apples are superfoods, they really are, they're amazing.
What about bananas?
Bananas are amazing. Cool. Yeah, so try to eat them in season, So if you find that with fruit, if you go to Iceland in the middle of winter, you can't grow bananas. So it's not a good idea to eat bananas then. So also following the seasons, try to eat what's local, what's available. But fruits are amazing, and people get that confused with sugar. Now, added sugar is a whole different beast altogether, and it's in everything, and it's highly addictive. It's like cocaine to the brain, very different to natural sugar in fruits and vegetables. That's Mother Nature's treats. That's what they're there for.
And we've got some questions to ask you, Jason, from our listeners. Another one's come through here. This one says, can you please ask him if juicing is really the way to go, and is juicing fruit good, or should it be a combination of fruit and veggie? Surely fruit is just concentrated sugar. Would love to know your thoughts. That's from Tracy.
Absolutely, really good question. Simple answer is I only recommend juice when you're fasting. And the juice I recommend is vegetable juice. So I talk about that a lot in the book. How do you make a vegetable juice? Get a juicer, make the juice. That's great, but only juicing when you're fasting. Otherwise, blending's great, salads are great, whole fruit is great. I certainly don't recommend fruit juice as a concentrate.
What about the V8 veggie juice that you can buy?
That's a good backstop. Yeah, but again, making it fresh is even better, or getting it fresh made. But no question, V8 juice is better than fruit juice.
Right.
So you don't recommend doing juices unless you're fasting, so
Correct.
not to have normally.
No,
Right. So,
correct, yeah.
so those of us who are having one a day with our like normal food, that's not the way to go.
Well, as long as it's 100% vegetable juice,
Right.
cucumber, celery, beetroot, carrot, and some ginger. Ginger's so important, really good for warming the body and circulation and heart health. So as long as it's vegetable juice, yes. So don't throw an apple in there.
Okay.
Keep it as green as you can,
Right.
because we're all over sugared and under vegetabled.
Right. That's a great tip, actually. I'm going to tweak my veggie juice slightly.
Because you have one with an apple in there each
Yeah,
day.
it's got apple. I'm going to ask for that out.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Because I often put ginger in when I know my tummy or like I'm not feeling quite well. It often settles it. And
So
lemon
good
as
for the
well
tummy.
sometimes can be
Lemon.
quite good.
Oh, yeah, magic. Absolutely
Yeah.
magic.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jason, Sean Bennett in studio with us this morning.